Hey everyone, and welcome. My name is Luvvie Ajayi, and I'm an author, activist, public speaker, professional troublemaker. And I'm excited to be working with P&G's program, My Black is Beautiful, which focuses on generating positive dialogue about Black beauty by, for, and about Black women. My Black is Beautiful is partnered with brands such as Pantene, Olay, Crest, and Head & Shoulders. Today, we're partnering together to host a series of conversations with some of my favorite podcast hosts about something called The Talk. And no, I'm not talking about the birds and the bees. There's a moment in many people's lives, especially Black people's lives, when you're confronted with a harsh reality. And that is finding out that the world isn't fair, finding out about privilege, and that Black people often have to work twice as hard to succeed, sometimes 4 times as hard, all because of the color of our skin. And maybe by talking about the talk, we can begin to understand others' experiences. Truth is, everyone has their own unique experience with it. So today, I am in the studio with Brittany, Luse, and Eddings, and they're the co-hosts of The Nod, a podcast that explores all the beautiful, complicated dimensions of Black life. And I am so excited to have a conversation with them about their experiences with the talk. How y'all doing?
Good.
Doing good.
Good to be here.
Looking good, looking melanated, you know?
Thank you. That's a difficult thing to do at this time of year.
I moisturize today.
Nice. You moisturize, you use shea butter, because we have to.
Yeah.
It's part of the law.
It's true.
Being Black, because you have to leave your house moisturized. Ash, we do not do.
Don't do it.
I think that was part of the talk that we left out.
Exactly.
We don't do
talk,
ash.
actually.
Because, you know, they will
That's
rub
the
you
very
down.
first talk, yeah.
They will rub you down with grease. You would not be leaving this
My
house.
father, still to this day, if he sees a child, he doesn't do crusty faces. So
Yeah.
in general, if like a child has like snot on them, my father will be like, excuse me, can I please just, and then he'll take a Kleenex or his handkerchief, wipe the baby's nose, and chapstick. He thinks,
that is so cute.
He does not like to see, he likes to see a greasy, smooth face on a child. He does not like to see crust or ash. None
I love
of it.
that. That's so cute. See, community.
Yeah,
Exactly.
there you go.
He's like, if you're not wiping their nose, I will.
There's got to be a day of Kwanzaa for that.
Each one teach one.
Yeah.
All right, so today we're going to be talking about the talk, of course, and just wanted to find out, like, what does the talk mean to you?
I think the talk is really, it's a conversation between parents and their kids about bias, about race, about just what it's like to be Black and in the world. And it's something that, like, you know, it might happen in one shot. You know, I think for me and maybe for Brittany too, it happened kind of over time. Mm-hmm. But it's kind of an essential set of knowledge that, like, you kind of have to figure out how to prepare a child, just, you know, because you worry about how they might be perceived when they go out into the world.
Like Eric, for me, it was a series of talks. Like my parents sort of drip fed me information throughout my childhood, and it kind of culminated in, so you have a driver's license. Like, this is what may happen to you out in the world. You know, you have to be really aware of your surroundings, who you're talking to, who's talking to you. If you see the police drive up behind you, make sure you stop, keep your hands inside the car, be extremely polite. Maybe also because I'm a girl too, I got a lot of instruction to smile. Like, hey, how can I help you? But it's really just the conversation that parents of Black children have with their kids to prepare them for just the realities of the outside. Like, yes, you are Brittany. You're really a big theater nerd. You don't do your homework as much as you should. You know, you have a lot of friends. That's all good and fine. But, you know, it's totally possible that somebody in a position of authority, or really anybody out in the world, who doesn't know you, might see you as a threat, or might see you as, you know, somebody who shouldn't be trusted, or somebody who doesn't deserve help. Mm-hmm. And it's a conversation that parents of Black children have with their kids, just telling them how to conduct themselves in the world, especially with figures of like authority, so that they can, you know, stay safe and get where they need to go.
Yeah, I mean, for me too, I think it's all about like actually communicating, like to a kid, to a child, that like sometimes no matter what you do, how you're perceived can like work against that, you know? And like that, I think was a large part of it for me too, is that like, you know, my parents were trying to communicate to me, like in certain cases, like what you're doing is fine, but because of how people see you, you know, they might respond or react to you differently because, you know, I was a Black man.
Yeah.
And, like, as a kid, when they would kind of pepper that into conversations, I don't know that I always got it. But it was something that definitely, like Brittany said, like, became more urgent as I was, you know, starting to, like, go out into the world by myself.
It's interesting because I never got the talk. Like, I was born in Nigeria, so I didn't even know I was Black until I was, like, 9. Like, because for me, Black was the default, so it was never defined when I was growing up. So coming here and basically having to deal with racial dynamics was, like, complete shock.
Yeah.
And my mom wasn't necessarily equipped because she also never had to deal with that. So I never got the talk at home to being like, hey, you're a Black girl. Here's the things that come with that. So it was very interesting. Like, school definitely is where I got my talk. College, probably.
Yeah.
Wow.
Me taking, like, race and ethnicity classes of being like, oh, so, like, people are looking at me for real super different? Yeah. Oh, I never paid attention because it was something that wasn't really on my consciousness. Yeah.
You know, there's no instruction manual. There's no, like, you know, there's no specific way it's supposed to happen. And I think, you know, for a lot of parents, they really struggle with trying to figure out how they are going to have the talk. I remember specifically when I started driving, you know, I actually started driving like a year earlier than all my friends, which at the time was like the greatest thing in the world for me.
You were the coolest kid on the block.
Yeah, for like 2 weeks. But my mom came and she said, look, you know, as a Black man, you know, people read you as aggressive. And at the time, you know, I was like 15. So I was like, what are you talking about? Like, aggressive? Why would I, you know, why would I be aggressive? Now, mind you, at the time I was 15, like, you know, 15-year-olds, sometimes they have a little bit of an angry phase.
Of course,
you know?
angsty.
And she was trying to tell me that, like, look, I know you speak your mind. And, like, that's one of the things that I'm happy that we taught you. But, like, getting angry, like, people read that in a darker way than you perceive it. And it didn't really connect with me actually until I had an experience where I was driving home from school, and I happened to pass a cop just on the expressway. Legal, like, I passed on the right, and, like, I went around him, but he, like, pulled me over, and I was frustrated because I had just passed my driver's test. So I was like, look, I know that was a legal pass.
That was a legal pass.
You know, like, what? Like, why are you pulling me over? Why are you doing this? And I was pissed because I was like, in my mind, I was like, I've done everything right. Yeah. So, I can get mad in this case. And thankfully, that situation got awkward. He actually, like, called my mom in a way because I was so adamant that I was in the right. And he was like, well, you know, you need to call your mother or else, you know, we're going to, like, take you in, which I also thought, I was like, you
like,
can't do that either.
Real strategy that they teach at the police academy.
I don't think it's in the handbook.
Yeah. It's not.
But anyway, so I did call my mom, and my mom actually backed me up. She was like, no, I'm about the book person as you can be. Many people in my life will attest to that. And she was like, I just don't think he did what you're saying. And, you know, and anyway, the situation passed without escalating beyond that, thankfully. But she followed up with me and she was like, look, this is where that comes from.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that Black women experience a lot of that as well.
Yeah.
Like, don't get it twisted. But I think it can sometimes manifest itself in different ways.
Yeah, I think they're like, I have two sisters. I have one older, one younger. So we had a house full of girls. So a lot of our conversations were more about, like, keeping your physical person safe.
Yeah.
But also a man with a certain level of authority, or has been given a certain level of authority, is like somebody who you should be even more, like, cautious around. Just, like, you know, mind your P's and Q's, be polite, but also be completely aware of everything at all times because, like, you just don't know.
So it's interesting, like, for women, our talk is always, like, how to make sure things aren't done to us.
Yeah.
To men, it's, like, how to make sure people don't think you're going to do something to them.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So that piece is really fascinating.
Mm-hmm.
And I wonder how do we find joy in the midst of that? What do we do to kind of be like, okay, I know I just dropped this anvil on you, kid. How do you lift some of it?
I mean, I think that's a question you got to try to figure out a new answer for every day. Yeah. You know, I mean, I think the thing that is important is to, like, as much as there are things you have to be cognizant of in terms of like how the world perceives you if you're Black, you also have to balance that with a pride in, like, you know, what we're able to accomplish in spite of that. And like that you can have, like, that you have a full life and like it's rich and like, you know, for a lot of people, you know, some people don't have access to that, but the pride has to come with it, you know, like if you're only given the fact that, like, you know, that being Black means you have to kind of be cognizant of this box that people put you in, then that's really sad, you know? But there's a culture and a history that also comes with that that's really exciting and inspiring and something that, you know, that is to be proud of and that you can find joy in. Yeah. At least for me.
I think also too, like, I have no kids. But something that when I think about like how the way that I was raised, I think about how, you know, what great parents I had, and like, you know, my friends who are parents like Eric and some of my other friends, is that it seems like parenting is just a series of like trying to make life as enjoyable as possible, also being like, but I'm going to let you out into the world and it's a terrible place.
Everything sucks. Love you.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like, you know, even outside of the talk, a lot of parenting is trying to figure out how to mitigate all these, like, you know, informing your child of what the world is really like, and like, but also giving them like a safe place to grow up in. And something that helped me a lot was just like also seeing my parents enjoy themselves. You know what I mean? Like sort of like living by example. Like if you know, it's not like, Eric and I don't spend all of our time talking about things like this. Like we go to the movies, you know what I'm saying? Like we hang out with our friends, we go get a drink or go out to dinner or go on vacation or whatever. We do things that are enjoyable for us and like try to find things about life and about ourselves, about the people in our lives that are worth enjoying and celebrating. And like I think that, you know, what you're doing when you have the talk with your kid is you're sort of introducing them to the dichotomy that is like living life as a Black person and sort of like, you know, all of the joy and the excitement, but also all of the like the pain and sometimes the fear that comes with that. And, you know, if you can sort of show them how you get through it, then that gives them something to go off of.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And so I think like just, you know, I think that like there's only so much that we can change about the outside world.
Yeah.
So like, all you can really do is like inform your kids and each other and have a good time the rest of the time.
Yeah. So Eric, you're a dad. Like, have you thought about when you're going to give your daughter the talk? How old is she going to be? How are you going to do this?
Yeah. I mean, Brittany's heard a lot of that anxiety over time. I mean, honestly, it's something I've been thinking about since before she was born. Like it immediately became clear that, you know, I was bringing a Black woman into this world, and like, you know, it just was so heavy, the thought of having to communicate to her, like, what that entails. And, you know, it's something that, like, I continue to think about. And I think it's going to be a series of talks. I mean, one of the ways I've kind of alleviated my own anxiety about the situation is that, you know, for a while I was thinking, like, I have to give her this information all at once. You know, I have to, like, prepare her for the world as early as possible and like as comprehensively as possible.
I don't know about that.
Yeah.
Right. You overwhelm the little girl. Oh man.
Exactly. So now I think the plan right now is to, as I see opportunities to give her like little pieces that I feel like she can process, I want to do that. And it's like, it's strange because you want to prepare your child as early as possible for like the world that they're going to be facing, but you also don't want to, you know, take away some of the veil of like innocence that they have too.
Right.
You know, it's hard. I'll be honest, I haven't quite figured out.
How old is she right now?
She's 2.5. So it's a little, you know, it's a touch early.
Yeah.
Thank goodness.
She's going to go to kindergarten and be like, let me tell what my dad said, right?
Well, by kindergarten, she might have it. Like, we might have had at least a little bit of it.
She'll be a woke baby.
Yeah. But yeah, it's something I'm constantly thinking about, trying to figure out ways that I might be able to find some sort of balance, you know. But I think for me, I want it to start early so that it's not as much of not as necessarily like a shock, but a lot of times people talk about the removal of innocence and like, you know, like breaking down a kid's world. And I think, you know, the more that they're exposed to things early in a way that doesn't feel like it's jarring or scary or like, you know, like you're in immediate danger, I think the more that they're actually able to process those things.
I mean, I think parents are pretty nuanced and not be able to be like, America doesn't like you. Bye, kid. You know, there's ways to kind of like slide through. Like,
exactly.
Yes. This is why we couldn't find a little black doll for you. Like, you know, things like those conversations. Because kids are actually much smarter than we give them credit for.
They notice everything.
They know everything and notice everything.
Everything.
You're like, are you schooling me? I'm telling you, you're going to have all these woke kindergartners.
Yeah. The other day we were at dinner and she was like, Dad, I'm queen? And I said, yes. Yes, you are.
Yes, queen, yes.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, they pick up so much and they're always listening. So, yeah, I mean, I think, you know, as a parent, you got to respect that and give them the information they're seeking.
Yeah, I feel like I'd have the talk with my kids and then be like, and now let's dance. Like,
But we also have trap music.
Yeah,
so
we also have trap music.
We also have trap music.
And we have amazing food.
Yeah, we have amazing food.
And like, do you see our swag?
Yeah.
And like, basically try to balance that out to be like, I know I just dropped a lot on you here. But we also have amazing music. So we're going to do like all types of wobbles and Cupid shuffles.
Yes.
And you'll be okay, kid. Like, I feel like that's the tactic.
I feel like that's the tactic. And even if like, I think about it like, you know, in a way now, I think the talk has kind of changed because it's like, because of the way social media works and people and technology and like, there's a way to like record, you know, a violent incident and then share it with millions of people really quickly that it's almost like unavoidable for young people now. Like they're going to be probably coming to us, I imagine, like in the future with questions sooner than we can give them responses. But like, even though the talk now is different because like you can't meter it out, I think, over time, the way that our parents were probably able to do. Yeah. Kids are just confronted with these images at younger and younger ages and they're going to have questions. But in a way, like, our parents received some sort of talk, and their parents definitely received some sort of talk. Yeah. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, this is something, it's like, I don't find it to be like a warm tradition, like, say, sweet potato pie. But, you know, sometimes I think about having kids in the future, and I'm like, oh my God, how am I going to talk to them about this? But, you know, it's like, you know, my parents did it, but also my grandparents probably also did it. And like, you know, I think they all had pretty good lives. And I think that we can figure out a way to like enjoy ourselves. And like, it's not the focus of our lives. It's the only thing that's going to happen to you. Yeah. Or the only thing that ever could happen to you. There's lots of good stuff.
So how do we create a deeper understanding with people who don't have to have the talk with their kids?
I think that's kind of like I think that that's kind of like on their end. You know what I'm saying? Like now more so than ever, I think we're having a lot of public conversations about, you know, the nuances of Black parenting in America. And, you know, they're easier to find now than ever. And so there are more people who grew up not having the talk who now know that the talk exists. And so it's kind of on them to really listen, educate themselves, and kind of just be present. I think that that's the best way to sort of like gain understanding. I don't know if there's anything more that like, you know, that we can do.
I mean, it's interesting because when others realize the talk has to be had by us, it kind of shocks them. Yeah. Because they never have to think about it, which is the whole thing about privilege of like the fact that you never have to sit your kids down to have the, all right, so how you move through the world in a certain way matters is something that kind of stuns folks. I saw conversations on Twitter, people being like, wow, this is really hard for Black parents. Yeah. It's like, welcome to our world. Yeah. So I do think the talk needs to be like in schools too, so other kids can be like, oh, wow, my parents never had to tell me that. Yeah. That matters. When other people start understanding your reality, I think it can really change how hopefully in 20 years, our kids don't have to like have talks with their kids in such a way.
Hopefully in 20 years, my kids won't have kids.
Oh, man. True story. Oh, man.
That's also a prayer.
because I actually don't have kids yet. So in 20 years, if my kids have kids, girl, no.
No.
That means I missed. That means I missed the birds and the bees talk with you.
Yeah, there's another talk that needs to happen.
That needs to happen. Like, oh, I failed you in one way. Let me tell you. Yeah. So, y'all are dope.
Like, you
You are
too.
dope.
You
Y'all
too,
are
sis.
like in all your blackness. Y'all are two like amazing folks, and I love your podcast.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I'm excited to have had this conversation with you.
Yeah.
So, like, people need to make sure they keep track of what y'all up to. So, I'm on Twitter at Luvvie. That's Luvvie. Brittany is at BM Luse. That's BMLUSE. And Eric is at Eddings, which is EEDDINGS. Be sure to check out their podcast, The Nod. You can subscribe to it wherever you get your podcasts. Have you had the talk? What was it like? I'd love to hear your thoughts and stories of your own. Join the conversation on Twitter using the hashtag #TalkAboutBias. Follow My Black is Beautiful on Twitter and Instagram at MBIB. Or find us on Facebook at facebook.com/MBIB. You can also join the community at MBIB.com. Just share.